Hey gang, and welcome to yet another video critique. This time it's week 5, assignment 4, and you are creating the stylistic compositions, or composites, I guess, technically. I can't even say the name of my own assignment correctly. Off to a great start. Anyway, this was the assignment where you looked at surrealist artists, and tried to make images inspired by or in the fashion of their work. So, let's take a look at some images here. This time around, we're going to be looking at Abel's work, at Larry's work, at Stephanie's work, and at Teresa's work. So yeah, let's jump right in and take a look at them. And so we have Abel's work this time. And oh, hold on. I jumped ahead. Oh, I totally I ruined the suspense. I guess it was me. Alright, so I always like going through these and seeing like what are the sort of like what's the source image that you're basing it off of, if you included it, and then what are the images that you're compositing together. The candle, the cobblestone, the tree trunk, and the hands. And here they are with the screenshot, sort of giving you an idea. And then here is, on the left, Abel's image that he made, and on the right here is the image that inspired it, which is a somewhat famous Jerry Uelsmann photograph. I should also mention that it's kind of funny that we're doing this week, because he actually did the majority of these that he did without Photoshop. Actually did them in a darkroom, which takes about 1 billion times longer. And he is on record as saying if they had Photoshop back in the day, I would have totally used it. But anyway, so we have the side by side, and nice. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just make this a little bit bigger so we can see it here. Just right off the top, I like this a lot. I like that it's pretty well composited. It does have a slightly surreal look to it, but obviously, I mean, beyond just the fact that it's hands coming out of a tree with candles and cobblestones, it does have a slightly a kind of a thing that Uelsmann does with his work too, which is like a kind of there's like a texture thing happening. You did bump it up, so it's kind of contrasty as well. It's got almost like a glowing effect here. Now it's interesting that you use this candle and these hands sort of as a stand-in for a nest and an egg. There's obviously a lot of symbolism with the hands and the nest and sort of this egg-like shape, and yet the fact that it's also a candle is I think, a really interesting twist on that. But just strictly in terms of technical stuff, very nicely done. I think all the elements really blend together well. I'd say maybe the only thing that I'm not 100% buying, and I think it's a little easier to see in this, is sort of this transition. It's a little bit awkward in his too. I don't know if something like, rather than making it a real straight line, if it had been somewhat, if it had kind of followed the contours of the rock, if that would make a difference at all. I think that's a slightly different thing about Uelsmann's, is that his bricks, he uses bricks instead of cobblestones, and they're fairly squared off to begin with. But that's a super picky thing. I'm definitely being very definitely being very picky. All the elements of the image merge well. Very, I think, successful surreal image, and also it has lots of dreamlike imagery. Always a good thing with surrealism. And also just a sort of it feels like it's loaded with meanings, different interpretations, and sort of like it feels, or it looks like it's significant. Like you definitely can see that there's a lot of metaphor and sort of allegory happening in this image. I don't necessarily think we need to go through what they all are. Certainly, anyone who is curious, I'd absolutely would love to have that conversation with you. But that doesn't necessarily have to be something that we all have to, do as on this video. So, just to summarize, I think this turned out really well. Thank you, Abel. Alright, next up, let's look at Larry's. And Larry was inspired on this assignment by this image by Derek Leah, who is sort of a contemporary surrealist. One of the more famous ones, at least in photography circles. So that was the inspirational image there. And then, computer's lagging. Does not make me happy. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay. So, here's some of the image elements that are going to be combined together. So we have these various signs here. We have some clouds. We have this woman, maybe Larry's wife. And we have the hood emblem of a Mustang car. And let's see what that looks like all together. Give you a little preview there with all the different layers. And let's look at... Alright, here's the final one here. Click it out one more time here. There it is. Okay. So, alright, so you can definitely see where these different elements are coming from. I'm definitely seeing a lot of different, definitely dreamlike things here. It's interesting. I'm reminded a little bit of like playing cards, in the way that they sort of have in a playing card you'll see like things like upper corner, bottom corner. And a playing card is, obviously it's meant to be that it can be dealt either way. So there is sort of a mirroring effect. Like if you were to rotate it 180 degrees, you'd get roughly the same thing. So you do have some of that going here with this, with these flags. If you flipped it upside down, I mean, obviously these would be upside down, and a lot of things would be upside down. But it has sort of that. You see this a lot in playing cards too, where it's like a figure in the middle of sort of a series of diagonal lines there. I think that's really interesting, actually. There's a lot of stuff. It's definitely, you have like a surreal sort of dream quality happening. I like the fact that one of her eyes is covered. I keep coming back to that as I'm looking at the image. I'm sort of looking at various elements. I keep coming back here. It's always a really interesting and potentially loaded thing when you sort of cover someone's face, especially their eyes, because it is sort of it's like a way of denying the viewer access to this person. So I think that's super interesting. And there's also a thing that's happening here that is real dreamlike, and that's kind of her expression. She has like a very flat affect, so it's not like she's not like really grinning or like scowling, or it's almost like a blank expression with a sort of blank eye stare. But I think that really kind of goes into that dream quality of the image. I think that's contributing, sort of aiding that. I do like a lot of the directional things that you have going here. You have this sign with the arrow pointing here. You have a sign with the arrow pointing there. You have like a lot of these things that are sort of directing your eye right into her. So I think it's a pretty well structured image. It's got the surreal thing. In terms of the downside, your compositing is a little rough. You can see like in areas like this, you do see like it's not a super clean cutout. Like there's some sort of extra little bits that are clinging on in a few of these areas from the old image. But having said that, I thought overall pretty successful. Doing a lot of things right on here, and I like it. It's strangely engrossing. Alright, thank you, Larry. Up next, we have Stephanie's images. Alright, once again, it's like puzzle pieces, like we've sort of been talking about. So you have like a little bridge, you have some grass, we have sort of a muddy river with stuff in it, and sort of a nature scene there. And here they are all put together. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and scroll this up here. Now let's click Outline 2 so we can see the full image all at once. Maybe one more. Okay, that works. So we have kind of like a bizarre landscape here. Sort of very tall grass. We have some sort of mirroring things going on here. Kind of a bridge that's sort of going to a drop-off. So it's definitely more of a surreal landscape as opposed to, like, say, a surreal, like, action or dream state. I mean, I guess, you know, surreal dreams do occur in these kind of surreal dreamscapes. This is interesting. This one's definitely sort of less narrative than some of the last few have been, and functions really more on it functions more as maybe an imagined space, or like a space of sort of conflicting things happening. And I'd say, Stephanie, you have a little bit of what I was talking about with Larry's image here, where you do have a little bit of sort of stuff, kind of leftover stuff, or like, you know, sort of extras that sort of hitched on to some of these, or they're not necessarily all the smoothest transitions. Now, some places it works pretty well. You can see stuff like, you know, going from here to here. There, because the lighting is very similar. It's a pretty smooth transition. Other places, obviously, like kind of the edge here, and some of these, a little more rough. Not necessarily a smooth a transition. Now, you also have picked a fairly difficult thing to work with here. Stuff like grass, like people's hair, if they sort of have frizzy hair, like a lot of kind of floaty sort of strands of hair astray. And even just hair in general can be super hard if you're trying to make a selection around like someone's head. It can be super hard to get in there because it is like a ton of like, you know, edges to go through, and you know what's in focus and what's out of focus. And so there are ways of doing it, but it's definitely a tricky thing. I think that's potentially making this difficult. Some things I do like. I like sort of how you place this bridge thing like right on. You know, sort of saw these as similar. Let me scroll back up here. So you're noticing this shape is similar to this shape, and sort of using that together. These two are really well matched in terms of like lighting and exposure, so those are gonna mesh pretty well. This guy is obviously a different time of day, or at least different lighting. So that's one big thing that you can do, again, to sort of sell these, is try and shoot them in as similar a lighting setup as possible. You know, try and have as many of your settings the same as you can to sort of get that sort of what you're doing here, the matching idea. You don't want like little things kind of catching the eye, and distracting from what you're trying to do there. And let's move on to who's left? Teresa. Alright, let's look at Teresa's image here. And, okay, so here is this is her source image here, by an artist named Becky Pratt, I believe. Not someone that I was familiar with, but apparently a more of a modern surrealist here. So you can see the eye with the reflected in the eye, the sort of the fingers together, potentially kind of indicating what she might be thinking of, maybe lost in a memory or whatever. Okay, so here we have an eye, obviously, as it's labeled that, a night sky. I didn't realize that was the night sky. More like a texture thing. So full moon and an abandoned building. And I'm actually going to go ahead and zoom this out just slightly. Just so we can see the full image all at once here. And the finished surrealist image. Alright. Yeah, I think pretty effective. Just to start out, like all the elements are fairly well blended here. You sort of have like a soft edge to this, which I think is working well to sort of fade it in. Okay, I see. Yeah, night sky there. The background, your abandoned building, and then I don't know if this is the moon shape here or what that is. I could see this. I mean, yeah, this is pretty successful. Oops. I could see this even. Maybe the only other thing I do is on this layer that has this. Let's see. Maybe I can even see it here. If we look at your layers palette. Okay, doesn't matter. So some of the layers that these are on, I could see maybe lessening the opacity, like not a ton, but just like maybe 20-25%, so that you do see a little bit of the texture of the eye itself. You see sort of the veins and whatnot that are in here, just as like a very faint background thing. I think that could add a really interesting texture and sort of give that a really cool feeling. As far as this, well exposed, images are all pretty tight. I like how this is so close, like you can see like the mascara on the eyelashes here. It's like you can see it like as a thing. It almost looks like gloppy, like it's because they're so magnified. I like that. I like this actually as an element because you have all these lines, all these dark lines on a fairly light background that are all leading you right into here, getting great contrast between the white of the eye and the iris here, and all this stuff that's happening. So as an image, it's working pretty well. As a surreal sort of idea, I think working pretty well too. You definitely, it's not the same sort of idea that I think the original is based on. I mean, it's the same effect, but I think the original is more about nostalgia, where this to me seems more about either like a sort of fantasy / sci-fi daydream kind of thing. I mean, I guess it's pretty much what it is. It's like an imagining of something. So I sort of feel like that takes it in a different direction. Oh yeah, okay. But yeah, very nicely done. Great job, Teresa. So, it's that time once again where I wildly look around the room and try and find some sort of thing that I can use to come up with the word, right? You guys always post that word, letting me know that you watched the entire video. What you may not know is that I don't actually plan out that part of the video. I just sort of roll with it, and all of a sudden I'm, like looking all around the room I'm in, trying to find a good object, or I'll quickly imagine something. So this time around, the word that you can post to let me know that you watched this is belly button. Why? Because why not? Everyone's got one. Hopefully you only have one. Otherwise you may have a rare condition that I've never heard of. Anyway, so post belly button, and that will tell me that you watched the whole video. So, right down to it, guys. Coming up now is the last week, week 6. Holy cow, that came pretty quickly, I feel. So, yeah, I would say great job. I'm pretty sure I'm going to do videos for the final project as well. But if not, I've enjoyed viewing your work quite a bit. Yeah, great job, everybody. So yeah, until next time. Or not.